So today we're going to talk about money. Not just any money, but personal finance. A topic that is probably arguably one of the most important things in life, but also a subject that every single school and financial institute completely disregards. I just got out of a shower, which is probably a really bad idea before this video. For me, personal finance has always been an interesting journey, and I think it stemmed from the fact that I've always wanted to be rich. It's just that I've always thought of it as a very, very competitive sport with a leaderboard, and there's no reason why you shouldn't try to rank on top. Obviously, no one really starts off with an interest in personal finance. For me, I think the starting point was when I was about 15 years old and started to make some money on the internet, mainly through YouTube and all the stupid stuff we did online. We realized that, look, we were making some amount of money and I had no idea what to do with it. So I went to the person that we all go to, Google. Two very specific instances changed my outlook on things. The first one was a book called The Millionaire Next Door, which was a case study almost of the journey of American millionaires, and it was a survey done to understand the daily habits and what these people have done over the course of their life. The second thing that I stumbled upon was a bunch of blogs, and one blog in particular, which is to this date referenced as the grandfather blog post of personal finance, Mr. Money Mustache, and he had a specific post, and the post was called The Shockingly Simple Math of Early Retirement. What these videos and these blogs really linked me to was one concept, a concept called FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence and Early Retirement. And that is really where everything began. What FIRE tells you to do is very, very simple. Step number 1, figure out how to increase income. Step number 2, figure out how to cut spending. And step number 3, invest the difference. Mr. Money Mustache talks about a very, very fundamental concept. You can always save anywhere between 0% to 100% of your income. If you are saving 0% of your income, in theory, it means it costs you that amount of money to live, and therefore you can never retire. If you can save 100% of your income, that means that you currently spend somehow zero, and therefore you do not need any amount of money to live. People always tell us that saving money is a good thing, but no one really tells you exactly how much you can save. Now, if you go to the blog post, there's a lot of information with graphs that tell you, look, theoretically, if you save 10% of your income, that's a good thing because you can retire in about 40 to 50 years. But on the flip side, if you can be very, very drastic about it and you can save 50% of your income, you can change that number from 50 to 7. I know what you're thinking. How the fuck am I supposed to increase income? For most people, the smartest way to increase income is not to find different things, but specialize in the job role that you're already in and improve your skill set. Because chances are, if you can do better at your job, you can get promoted. If you wanted to go further, what you do is you find a side hustle. Figure out a way that you can use the current skills that you're working on in your current employment position to be able to do work part-time, to find different gigs that you can work on. And because of the fact that you already have a job, you can leverage those skills really well in order to make more money.
Several people ask me, Pat, how did I actually come out of my layoff and succeed in building this online business? And in my research, doing internet marketing and starting out in that world, I realized that nobody was really being completely honest about this whole thing because no, it was not as easy as everybody was saying it was gonna be. 2, nobody ever said any details about, well, how successful can you be online and how it all works, what's working, what's not working. In order to get access to that information before, you had to pay for it. So I was like, you know what? My online business is doing very well. I'm gonna create smartpassiveincome.com and share everything that's happening, from how much money I'm making, how much money I'm spending, where all the sales are coming from, what's working, what's not in my business, wins, fails, the whole thing. And I've been doing that for nearly 10 years straight, month after month.
The next part is cutting spending. I'm not gonna really talk about cutting spending because there's a lot of ways you can do that, and I'm also not the best person at this. Currently, I maintain a lifestyle cost which is relatively high for someone living in Sri Lanka, even though that I kind of wear the same thing all the time and I try to not spend money, but things happen. And the third thing is going to be invest the difference. Now, you need to figure out what your asset allocation is going to be. Are you the kind of guy who's going to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, fixed income assets, real estate, private equity? That's going to change for different people. Now, what I will do is I will share you guys a little question that I asked about portfolio strategy.
We continue our Q&A series today with 2 questions. One from Mary on whether to incorporate in California or Wyoming. And another one from Bonica about how to build financial independence and set out your asset allocation plan when you live in Sri Lanka.
Joshua Sheets runs a podcast called Radical Personal Finance. And this is a question that I asked him back in 2015, January or 2014, a really long time ago when I was like a weird squeaker. But the thing is, the information that he provided in that podcast has not changed. If you guys don't know or don't subscribe to that podcast, I think the first thing you need to do is stop right now and start getting more literate around finances. Radical Personal Finance is a really good podcast to start with, and it's a little bit non-conventional, but I really love it. And there's 2 more things inside this entire mess of things that you need to be aware of. Number 1 is inflation. Inflation is the debasement or the devaluation of currency that happens over an extended period of time. Usually it happens due to economic circumstances, quantitative easing, which is a fancy way of saying governments printing more money, and just a whole bunch of geopolitical reasons. And it basically devalues the currency that you have. So when you're generating returns on your income and your assets, just understand that there is inflation at play and you're losing value over time. So whatever you're doing in terms of calculations, always try to adjust for inflation, even though you can't get it absolutely right. Now, the final thing that I want to touch about is a little bit of a controversial one, and that's about debt. Generally, debt is bad, especially consumer debt. In fact, there are shows dedicated to people getting out of debt, like the ones by Dave Ramsey.
What do you guys do for a living?
I'm a registered nurse.
Promise you don't laugh.
Okay.
I'm a private investigator.
Okay.
And a pastor.
Okay.
So I don't know how they go together.
I'm thinking that there's probably opportunities on both sides for these to work together. Yeah.
Dave Ramsey is this podcast host that runs a phenomenally popular channel that talks about the lives of families of people that get out of debt, whether it's usually through credit card loans, whether it's through buying a car, a mortgage, or student debt. It's really how these lives of people change dramatically because they're able to get out of debt. And it's fascinating. If you have the time, you should absolutely watch it. Not all debt is bad. If you go around the literature of people like Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about how debt becomes a wonderful instrument to use to acquire assets that perform better than the interest of debt, whether it's in the form of real estate or whether it's in the form of private equity. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one because you can either go really well or really poorly because of debt. Personally, I take a very conservative approach towards debt. I take on a little bit of it. About 20% of my asset allocation actually stays at debt because I have made investments that historically make better returns and are not very volatile. Like the example would be the real estate that I own has a mortgage on it, which is debt that performs better than the interest on that debt. So I feel comfortable doing that, but it's not really for everyone. At the end of the day, what we need to remember is that it's not whether what asset allocation works or what portfolio is better. It's you as an individual needs to understand how money works. The more time and energy you spend reading and understanding finances, you'll be better at it. And that's why I made this video. This video isn't going to be a magic bullet to tell you guys, hey, put your money in stocks or bonds and you'll be well off. It's a video to tell you guys, look, spend some time, watch shows like Radical Personal Finance, follow people like Jeff Rose, and follow people like Dave Ramsey and see what they have to say. Get a difference in thought, get different opinions from different people and talk to people, see how they're managing their money, because not everyone that tends to live a life that looks really great on Instagram is doing so well?